Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. Mike Suppy nice enough to join me today and stick around with me. Donald Eng doing the Monroe Courier today. Dave Stewart, of course, joins us normally on Wednesdays. Dave is off for a little while. Maybe talk to him next week on the phone. But Mike's here today. Mike, thanks for coming by.
No problem. Good to be here.
Good to have you in once again. We always say we want to have Mike on more, so we're glad he's here today. And joining us in studio, we're very happy to be joined by the Commissioner of the SEC, Al Carbone. So Al's going to hang out with us as well for the show. Al, how are you?
Great, Rob. Merry Christmas. Mike, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And
You
everybody. Glad to be here.
So right off the bat, let's start with some news that you guys made football-wise. And I said it on yesterday's show. I think it's a great move for the SEC. I love what you guys did. Tell us what happened.
Well, for the first time in 12 seasons, the SEC is going to a three-division format for the sport of football. And while it's significant for a couple of reasons. One is for the last 12 years, we haven't had any movement. We were in 4 divisions of 5. We had never had any movement, and we had, like, it's called Division I, Division II. There wasn't any movement. We've had some teams like North Haven who have been Division II, who've had tremendous success over this last 5 years, who've been playing a Division II schedule. They really haven't played, a really competitive schedule. And so there's been a lot of discussion in our league about, look at our football league, and I hate to characterize it as haves and have-nots,
right.
but in reality, that's what it's been. We have these crossover games between Division I and Division II teams, and to be honest, they're uncompetitive games.
Yeah.
And so our athletic directors and coaches have been talking for years about movement. How do we get these teams in a fair, but you're getting competitive schedules? I would say in the last year we did a one-year schedule where we kind of had some compromises. We did one less crossover game, and which gave some teams open dates to go find more competitive games. This year we came back to the drawing board, and it was contentious last year. It's ironic that it's Happy Festivus Day and the airing of grievances. It was a year worth of grievances talking about football scheduling. And so when we kept talking about it and we came up with different proposals, how do we, in our league, get what everyone wants? And it's difficult, very difficult. But for the first time, I think our people understood the differences, understood what people were looking for, and we were able to come up with a 3-division format where it's not even. We have 20 teams. We added
right.
Hyde, Whitney Tech Co-op, and Career into our league as the 20th team. We had flirted with teams from the Eastern Connecticut Conference to come in to do such a 3-division format, but that didn't really work out. I don't think they were ready to come into our league. So we did a 3-division where we did 8 teams, and we have 5 teams in this Tier 2 and then 7 teams in the Tier 3. And if you look at the competitiveness of those programs in our football league, that's where you would group them. And so by doing this, I call it a hybrid schedule. We call it a hybrid schedule because it's only going to be for 1 year, but it's going to allow us, our teams, to play pretty competitive schedules. And so, like, a lot of people have been, anxious and disappointed with that Tier 2. There's a couple double L schools, Amity,
right.
Hamden, and Wilbur-Cross. But they have been at the lowest levels of Division I over the period of time in the league, 22 years, and including the last 12 years. So we put them there, and we gave them schedules where they had to play up, get to play down, but they're getting a schedule which is probably representative of where they are as a program. And so for the first time, we're going to see if these teams where they are. And I think the best part about it is that we're going to actually get better data, because more teams are going to play each other. So when we compare them, when we re-rank them after next year, we can be able to compare teams in a better fashion. In the past, for the last 12 years, we had 4 divisions, and the way we ranked the teams was you ranked them in their division based on their division games. So that was a total of 8 games over 2 years.
Right.
No, results versus games in other divisions, or no games that way. So you had a tough time if teams didn't play. Well, how do you know who's better? Who's going to make that jump up or that jump down, or moving down? We weren't able to do that. Now we're able to do that.
Wow.
So outside, I don't know if you probably know this off the top of your head. What former Division IIs had won crossovers? It was only Foreign and North Haven, right?
Actually, a couple of them have. North Haven has been successful in the crossovers. Branford has won some. Foreign beat Notre Dame about 3 years ago. Hill House has won a bunch too. They were a Division II program. East Haven beat Hamden this year. Was a crossover game. Several teams have won them, not a lot, but the record is definitely stacked. If you look over since 1994, the record is probably, like in 25 and 150. It's significant.
Yeah.
But more significant isn't the losses, it's the scores.
Yep.
One of the great things about our league and I think our coaches is that we generally respect each other, and that 50-point rule, which is a notorious, infamous rule. We've never gotten to that point. Again, if it's a route, you see running clock, you see JVs playing.
Absolutely.
There's a bit of sportsmanship and respect there. So we've never had that problem. But you see those games. And that has been the big bone of contention of saying, why are we playing those games? Well, you're playing those games because you're part of a league. And that's one of the tough conversations that we had over the last year is like, the Division II teams didn't want to play crossovers. But the Division I's, you're part of this league, you should play them. You have played them. You have played these teams. You have a rivalry or such or a previous one. You can't back away from those. But what is the right number? And what is, some schools may want to play two of them. Some schools want to play, just want to get the one and move on. It's about competitive games. That's what it comes out to.
Yeah, it has to be about competitive games. And, Dave Stewart was here yesterday, and I asked him about, from the FCIAC point of view, of course, he's not specifically part of the FCIAC, but he does run FCIAC.net, and,
right.
Heavily involved with New Canaan and all, covering sports for the New Canaan Advertiser. I said, do you see the FCIAC going to this kind of model? He doesn't see it right now. He doesn't think we are there yet as a conference. I think if you've eliminated a championship game, if this is the way it's going to go, to me this seems like the wave of the future.
Yeah, and I think with the FCIAC, having good knowledge of the FCIAC, out of their 17 schools, there's like 13 or 14 double L schools.
Right.
So they
are,
again, in the SEC, out of the 20, you have 8 double L's, you have 6 L's, and then you have 6 or 7 M's. So there's a balance there. But however, if you looked at the SEC's double L schools, 5 out of the 8, you're talking about Amity, Hamden, and Wilbercross being the 3 double L's who actually pushed down. 5 of those 8 are probably in the top 20 football programs in the state, successful. Our Class L programs, HAN, North Haven, and Notre Dame, are probably in the top 25 programs in the whole entire state. So that goes into the reverse argument of saying, like, well, then it's too competitive. But for the FCIAC, because they have a lot of double L's, and then you have a really good M program in St. Joe's, a really good S program, Trinity Catholic. Sure. Then you're talking about like Wilton, schools like that who have gone up and down from L to double L. The 2 Fairfield schools I think are double L, and they, maybe high L's or whatever that. They can do that. I don't think they're not going to do that because of the way. But also the thing that differentiates the FCIAC is all of their teams play each other on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That's the problem with the SEC. If there's one problem that I have in scheduling and doing it, is that we have teams that play outside the league. Not to diminish historical implications and traditions of Shelton Derby, 100 plus years.
Yeah.
But that affects how we schedule because you're trying to give teams full schedules, and then you have that Thanksgiving. So where do you other play? Cheshire playing Southington outside the league.
It's true.
Xavier not having a Thanksgiving Day opponent. Then you have all these other matchups which create not scheduling inequities, but challenges because you're trying to give people full games, and that's what's been the challenge over 2 years. And again, I'm not going to tell Shelton and Derby not to play, but comparing it to the FCIAC is that all those teams play each other on Thanksgiving, so you can divide them up, a lot of them being double L's, and say, you know what, there you go. Granted, and I've saw a lot of the scheduling proposals that some of the people in the FCIAC have, Frank Marcuscio from West Hill being one, about doing something similar to what the SEC was. But again, in defense of the FCIAC is that your double L's, you've had success, the enrollment factor doesn't probably play as big of a role as it does in the SEC because you're talking about programs maybe a little bit more equal and that you should be playing them. And that's why it goes into the saying, what's next? The district model. Okay, do it but again, the state's got to get going. All the rest of the league's got to join in. I'm for it. We're for it because you know what? It'll make our lives easier because our double L's, they want to play the other double L's. I would love, in a perfect world, I would love the SEC and the FCIAC to merge for football, create our own league, have our own playoffs and all that stuff. I might be the bad person in saying that. The CIAC might get mad at me and other people, but I've said it to the FCIAC when we did that 1-year, 2-year scheduling partnership.
That was so fun.
I said, why don't we just join our leagues? You have 36 teams, you have 4 divisions of 9, everyone gets full schedules, you can still play your Thanksgiving Day rivalries, and oh yeah, by the way, we can have like a 16-team playoff in 1 and 2, big and small. Everybody wins.
I'll just tell you from a broadcaster's perspective, during that crossover challenge, the first year I did West Haven Greenwich at Greenwich High School, that game that got split over the 2 days, Greenwich with the big comeback.
A lot of lightning.
Yeah, and a lot of lightning. Right. Oh, crazy. And the following year, I did the New Canaan HAN game. Both great games, a lot of fun. People were into it.
Right.
It really was a cool thing.
And the great part of that whole deal wasn't that week 1, because that was just the fact that it was 9-8. And it came down to the last games, to me, that's what it was supposed to be. But what were the games in the schedule, the other 24 games that we scheduled, like a Darien, North Haven, which was in week 10, we had foreign play. Ward, which were really competitive games. Even Guilford, Wilton were.
I remember that.
Touchdown games. That's why that worked, and that's why I always said we could do it again, because I say that, and I've said this on Twitter before. We're the 2 best leagues. We're the 2 best leagues for everything.
Yeah.
So it was appropriate that Shelton was playing Darien. It was appropriate that North Haven was playing New Canaan.
Yep.
And I to paraphrase the great Ric Flair, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I knew it was going to be a challenge for Shelton and North Haven to win those games. But my goal as a commissioner is get to the championship game. No one could take that away. It doesn't matter. People say, well, the FCIAC. Darien and New Canaan were awesome this year. They were just as awesome as Xavier and Han were a couple years ago when they had their run.
Right.
And that's what you should aspire to, get to that championship game, because that's what you're doing. And so one of the things about our schedule that our upper tier 1 teams are, it's going to be a competitive schedule. Well, they already play a competitive schedule. Yes, you're going to play each other. I don't know if they're going to knock each other out of the playoffs, because we've averaged about 4 or 5 playoff teams every year. We've also had elite teams who have gone on and won. I don't know if anyone was going to beat Darien and New Canaan this year, but our 2 best teams got to the state championship.
Right.
We had a 3-loss team in West Haven make the playoffs. Yeah. We had 4 Division II teams, Foreign, East Haven, Hill House, and there was one more, in the mix for playoff spots on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's what you can ask for. It's again, is this 3-division schedule going to do that? Well, I want to see that, and I think we'll be okay. I think, again, in the end, if I'm a 32-team league like the CCC that got 8 playoff teams and then 7 of them lost in the quarterfinals, then there's the quality of our teams are tested. They go into the playoffs knowing that they're going to be competitive, and they're knowing that they're going to get to the championship game. That's the goal.
I think anything where, I might be biased in this respect, that anything that will make the games more competitive is fine by me, because I see a lot of games and a lot of blowouts and not a lot of competitive balance. And to see, teams going at it, playing within a touchdown or a field goal game where, every possession counts. And any time you get more of that, I think it's great personally.
And that's important too, because again, you can't, someone said to me, you can't legislate competitiveness.
You can try
in the block. You can try. But if you understand your audiences, in my case, I understand my league. I understand what our 20 teams balance are. I understand that, it's still high school sports. The kids got to go out there and play. The coaches got to prepare. But if the mentality is I have no shot in this game, then as a league, that's our fault. And granted, there are going to be some games in the crossover games, but there's also going to be games between 2 good teams that it just doesn't happen. Things happen. But the point is, though, is you want your kids to go into the student athletes to say, what, I'm excited about playing this game. This is our chance to show the world. And you know what? Especially football. Football gets so much attention in the fall. And it's almost sad because it gets too much attention that you take away from the actual preparation of the game in playing. I'm sure you covered this game, was the Daniel Han Shelton game at Shelton.
I was there.
Han legitimately had a shot of beating Shelton.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. It's a 4-point game, less than a touchdown. It's a great Division I SEC game. And if you can do that every week, I think that's important, and the kids are going to reap the benefits of that. So we'll see.
All right, we'll continue on here on Nutmeg Sports. Al's going to stick around. Mike's still here. We'll continue on a Wednesday Nutmeg, the last show before Christmas right here on the HAN Network.
Here at the Darien Sports Shop, we are very excited about our newly redesigned men's department. Gentlemen, if you're shopping for work, weekend, or wedding, we've got the latest styles and trends inside our spacious new department just for you. We have vast selections from Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Johnny O, Duckhead, Barber, and so much more. And you can even walk out of the store in the new Wolverine 1,000-mile men's boot. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut, or shop.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances, where community comes first, a place where there's more than one kind of interest, where automation will never replace consideration, where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
While there's still a bite out on the water, most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN Network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports, a Wednesday edition. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm Rob Adams. Al Carbone, the Commissioner of the SEC, alongside me. Across the way is Mike Suppy. Happy you're with us for this Wednesday edition. Let's switch gears now. And before we get to kind of hockey and basketball, we were talking about in the break, Al, the CIAC making, and it kind of rolls into basketball, making a decision where, you know, it used to be the standard was 40% you were in the playoffs, win 40% of your games. That's changing, and no buys this year. It's going to be a different world.
Yeah, and actually it's going to affect our league because in our league playoffs, we have allowed all the teams that make, you know, the 8 wins, the 40% to get to our league tournament up to 16. So they're typically getting like, 12, 13, 14 teams to make the league tournament. But my concern was, and we're not going to use that, is because we may have a team in Double L that's 7 and 13 that doesn't get in because there's some, because it's by chance after to fill that bracket. But we may have a team in Class M that's 6 and 14 or 5 and 15 that may have to get into the state tournament because of that fill the bracket. So the inconsistency and really the uncertainty of whether who's getting in, we just said for a league tournament, you got to go 8 wins. I'm interested to see how that plays. I've heard the rationale from the CIAC saying, well, it'll keep teams interested, into the game. And I agree with that, into the end of the season. But I also think, too, is that, again, the state tournament is a reward for getting. But again, you play in a tough league like ours or the CIACs, and you go 7 and 13, you're still a pretty good team. So that, you might see, and that's why I always say the imbalance around the state and the leagues is that you might see a team that's 7 and 13 or 6 and 14 that gets in that bracket beat a number 1 team. Probably not in basketball because I think but I may be in the lower divisions. You might see a team that could happen. So interested to see how it goes. They've done it in hockey, but there's so few teams. There's only 16 teams.
Yeah.
You have to do it. And I think I understand and like that rationale because I know our Division I hockey coaches, because there's so few teams, they play each other. So any given day you can beat each other, but it gives them the consistency that they're going to play the 4 games over those 2 weeks for the playoffs. But for basketball, I'm concerned about baseball. Being a baseball player and knowing that if you have one pitcher who wins 5 or 6 games and you go 6 and 13 or 7 and 13 and you're playing a number 1 seed, pitching is what drives baseball. And you always see that every year, that lower,
Every
the
year.
seeding means nothing in baseball because of the records. Amity wins a division,
Same thing with Sheehan.
Right. They were, Amity was 12-8 last year, and they're rolling in the state tournament because they have a great program. So the seeding didn't mean anything. I just want to see that. I think you might see an upset of a 7-13 in the number one. So we almost saw it last year with Branford, who was 8-12 in the SEC, beat Bristol Central, who was the supposed number one seed. It's not the best team. I think they should redo the seeding on power ratings. And that was a big cry from the football conversation, too. It was like, CIAC should reseed the teams based on the leagues. Well, go right ahead and do it. Well, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one sport where you sometimes don't get chalk like the other ones, where a lower seed knocks the higher seeds off within the system that it has now, and to throw another team in there that, could be a cold day, a long bus ride. There's a lot of factors that contribute to those games being close. Whereas, if you're a top seed and you have to burn off your number one pitcher in a game that you would normally get a bye in, it's tough. It's tough to reconcile that.
Yeah, it just, tough is the right word. That's the word I'm coming up with.
Again, it's a 2-year trial. So let's see how it goes. But again, weigh in from everybody and see what people thought about this. Because again, it's high school sports. It's still about the kids. It's still about giving kids. And I wish, 24 years ago when I was in high school, I wish I could still play one more basketball game and one more baseball game. It's the memories are that strong. So you want to give kids those opportunities to go play for a state championship. You want them to play for a league championship. So again, that one more game may propel somebody on a great run. And we've seen it. So, you want to take both sides of that argument, but I just don't hope that it doesn't, backfire. But I think it'll be okay. I'm interested to see the results.
For the 2 years, I think it's okay. Give it a shot.
It's not like you're taking away an opportunity from somebody. You're actually giving another opportunity, so you have to look at it that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Turn our attention to the winter sports, and we saw some pretty good hockey the other night. We saw Staples West and Shelton Amity in Game 1. We saw New Canaan Notre Dame West Haven in Game 2. Hockey's always so good in the SEC, always so good in the FCIAC. I mean, it's great stuff to watch.
Yeah, we're lucky in this state because ice hockey, with all the, I would say, high school sports is always under siege, I think, of and I say this in a positive way, is that kids nowadays, playing high school sports is important, but it's also as important as their outside stuff, AAU, trap, all the programs. So, to play, still have a good caliber of hockey in this state, especially the southern part of the state, is great. And it's great for the two leagues because I know all of our teams play there. And you saw Ridgefield Prep was an overtime game. Notre Dame, New Canaan was a great game. The Staples West and Shelton, Amity. I know tonight there's a triple header in our league. You have Milford, North Branford. And so, and having the SWC schools part of the SEC too gives us that monopoly there. So, again, hockey, and you see that in the state tournament, the quality of teams that come out of there, and hockey's strong. And it's funny because a couple years ago, they had discussions about increasing the 2 more minutes on the periods to go to a 17-minute period.
Yeah.
And the coaches always talk about adding more games like Rhode Island has, like more games to the regular season. And it hasn't really moved that much, and there's pros and cons to it, but. Again, we're lucky. We have league playoffs. The FCX still has their league playoffs, and again, it's about giving kids opportunities to play competitive games. And you know what? And the negative person will look at it and say, "Oh, well, kids can get hurt." The positive person looks at it and says, "I'm giving kids the opportunity to play games." And you get the opportunity to broadcast those games because you never know when that great game. And I always say one of the best games that you guys ever did was North Haven, Laurelton Hall. First round of the girls basketball SECs. It was double overtime. It was wild.
What a blast that was.
And I'm listening to it online. I'm tweeting stuff at you guys. And it was like the passion and excitement. And that was North Haven's first ever playoff win. And they were ecstatic. And that's what it's about.
That's what it's always been about to me. Have a good time, but the kids are the stars.
Right.
And they should be, and they should get all the opportunities. And we all know this. All 3 of us know this. Eric Gendron knows it across the way. We all know the majority of these athletes, they're done playing in high school. That's it.
Yeah.
They're not going to get the chance in college because it's just the reality of it. Right. Give them the opportunities they deserve.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to for me. On that same vein, girls ice hockey. I think we're making good strides there. What I saw last year in that state championship game was great, fun hockey. And again, Eric Gendron's off mic, but he called that game with me. We all know what a white-knuckle game that was into the overtime. And then, of course, wound up being a tie. But it feels like we're making good strides there, I hope.
Yeah, I look at it from the standpoint of the CIAC and the SEC are committed to it. We're adding schools every year who have kids that want to play. Like West Haven has a girl from Sacred Heart Academy. You're having Northwest Catholic and Mercy, which is another team. Whether they're co-ops or we're not, there are a lot of girls that play girls ice hockey. It's whether they play during the high school level. Our hope is that the CIAC, and we're having good discussions with them as we see more schools get involved, take it over as an official sport. It's not. It's an official sport for the SEC. It's an official sport for the FCIAC. We treat it as well. But again, we're making good strides with it. And again, more opportunities for kids to get recognized. Again, look at it, women's college ice hockey at the college level. You're looking at, look in this state. We always talk about the men's. You got the, Yale, UConn, Quinnipiac, elite programs, Sacred Heart, elite programs doing pretty well. So good opportunities for kids.
Totally. I mean, I agree. I remember covering, games back when we had the Hamden Chronicle doing those games up there and watching those games and, going out and watching that when it was very, very, very early in that when the girls hockey, and it was it's gotten so much better since then, and it's only going to keep improving, I think. And
another point to it is about the coaching. We talk about every sport about the quality of coaching. The quality of coaching in girls ice hockey is excellent because now what you're seeing is a lot of the females who have played and played in college are coming back to coaching at high school.
That's right.
That's a good thing because now you're developing the sport, but you're also embracing it and marketing the sport to younger girls, and you see that at the youth levels.
Great stuff. We'll take another break. We'll come back. We'll put a wrap on it. Al, Mike, me, we return on Nutmeg Sports right after this on the HAN Network. Denali is your outdoor retail destination in the Westfield Trumbull Mall. For the last 21 years, we have carefully selected clothing, footwear, and gear from a variety of the best outdoor brands, such as the North Face, Patagonia, Vineyard Vines, UGG, Merrell, GoPro, New Balance, and many more. Our stores have a friendly, knowledgeable staff to help you with all of your running, hiking, and cold weather needs, and in discovering all things outdoorsy and awesome. Visit us in the Westfield Trumbull Mall or online at DenaliOutdoor.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express, open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
Discover the Wilburton Inn in Manchester, Vermont, a 30-acre historic estate featuring a turn-of-the-century mansion with elegant inn guest rooms and 7 large private vacation homes, perfect for ski vacations and holiday celebrations. Special offer on select rooms and houses. Stay 2 nights, get the 3rd night free through Christmas Day. CNN has called the Wilburton one of the top 8 mansion hotels in America. Call 802-362-2500 or visit wilburtoninn.com for more information.
Do you do a lot of running around but get nowhere when you're buying a car? Visit Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram for the one-stop buying experience and stop spinning your wheels.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your local destination for the best of the holidays. Shop Stewart's for the freshest produce, certified prime rib roasts, magnolia wreaths, fresh baked pies, gingerbread houses, Christmas candies, and the season's best wine and craft brews right next door at Stewart's Spirits. Shop Walter Stewart's, 229 Elm Street in New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
By the way, hope you enjoyed the special Wednesday edition of Yankee Fisherman here on the HAN Network. It'll happen again next week, as of course we're off tomorrow and next Thursday for the eves of the balance of the season here in the holidays. Back with you on Nutmeg Sports. Al Carbone, nice enough to join us. We were just talking about making this even a monthly thing. Have you on more often. It'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. Love doing it and love to talk. So,
that works.
It's all good. It's all good.
That works. Mike Suppy.
Get my logo out there. I'm all good.
Al, where are we generally in high school sports now? Kind of the state as we start wrapping things up.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I've been commissioner of the SEC for 12 years, and I was joking with a couple of our athletic directors the last couple of days. I've been going to a couple schools to take some pictures of like the players of the year and stuff, and it's much harder to get into schools because of security.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't I know that?
And I really think about high school sports is that there is such a scrutiny now on it because one, you have more and more schools, like offering sports. You see fewer and fewer athletes going 2 sports, 3 sports. And I think that's because of sports specialization. I think the 12-month-a-year commitment, I think the student athletes are better equipped now, and I think they're better in general, more prepared to play at different levels, and you see that in the quality of play. My concern is that where does playing for your high school rank with playing for my junior team or my AAU or Olympic, all these other teams, and where does that And I say that, and people look at me saying, well, high school's important, and everyone says, yeah, kids are playing, and the statistics say that more kids are playing. But is that kid playing more than one sport, or are you just playing the one sport because he or she wants to focus year round?
Right.
That's my concern. And then you see the concussions, the focus on safety, and that. The overuse injuries and all that stuff, and how does that affect programs? Because again, we just went through a football discussion, the most violent sport. And the difference between the haves and have-nots isn't the quality of the player. It's I have 4 or 5 of those players versus your 1. And so, one-on-one we're good, but when we get 2 on your second and third who are just coming at you relentlessly, that's the biggest problem. And so, having the depth and stuff. And I remember a coach telling me a couple years ago with the advent, of pay to play, and he says, I had 35 kids on my freshman team, and 10 of them came out as sophomores. And you can attribute maybe some of that to pay to play. Kid has to work and he's not going to play. But you also attribute that to kids maybe just wanting to focus on one sport and not playing maybe football as a second sport. And he goes, those are the kids that you can work with who become, starters. That buy into the system, they're athletes. And he goes, that's the fun part of coaching because you want to develop kids. And so to me, I'm worried about, as you see more and more kids, I look at the girls basketball. I was at a girls basketball game the other night, and who doesn't have a freshman team? Who doesn't,
Every team.
Right. And why? There's millions of kids playing. I have a teen or a pre-teenage daughter who plays AAU, and I go to these AAU tournaments during the summer, and I see thousands of kids. Well, where are they not, when they go to high school, why aren't we have freshman teams? But then you see other schools that have 50 kids going out and then other schools that don't. And so those are all little trends that I think are going to be a big issue next couple of years as you see kids making the focus on one sport as opposed to playing 2 or 3 sports and getting that well-rounded experience.
We saw that with the forfeits, and I think it was in the spring with softball, where they didn't have enough players to get a team, which when I was in high school, that would have been unheard of for something like that to happen. We had 3 levels for basically every sport.
Right, and that's a big thing. And we talk about budget issues of of athletic programs, and when you're in getting good coaches, because you want to get a good coach at the freshman level because that's their first experience at a high school, and then you want to get a JV level who's preparing them to be varsity players, and then when you get your varsity coach, these kids there, and that's the difference I think now. Especially in the sport of football, it's about having a great youth program and they're buying in. That's why in the SEC, and I would say use the example of Darien and New Canaan being so successful, is that from 2nd grade when they learn how to play football up to 8th grade, then they get to 9th grade, they know what the system is. And in the SEC, the example recently has been North Haven. Tony Sagnella has controlled that youth program. This is what you're going to learn. This is how you're going to learn it. So when you get to 9th grade, you know how to run that single wing. and that's what we play. We've seen it at Daniel Hand. We've seen it at a lot of programs
Yeah.
that have had that success. But again, that's one of the intangibles that we talk about when we're doing scheduling is that, how's your program? What's the health of your program? And it extends to your community as well.
When you think back to North Haven, New Canaan, fun of those two different types of offenses makes me think of that.
Right, and again, but the respect that you had for between two teams to the
absolutely.
programs, because New Canaan did what they had to do to prepare to beat that, and they did, and it came down to a great offensive showdown and just a great high school football game, but a mutual respect between two programs that it was going to be a good game, and I guess that's what you're always trying to get is that competitive. Everyone looks at wins and losses. Everyone's going to look at that, but in the end, we have to be looking at are these kids coming out and buying into being a high school student athlete in that they want that experience, as opposed to, I go play for this AAU team because I'm going to get more college looks that way, or I'm going to get that way. No, well, it's still about playing for your. We still need to reinforce it, playing for your high school, playing for your community, playing in front of your friends, and being a part of that experience.
You're back around these parts next week?
I'll be here.
All right, stop by. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank
We'll set
you.
up a schedule and figure out how to have you on more.
Absolutely. Thank
Great
you, Rob.
stuff,
Thanks,
Al.
Mike.
Thanks to Eric Gendron for directing. Now, programming notes for you. We are dark tomorrow and Friday. We'll be back Monday at 11, of course, with Coffee Break. Hockey next Monday as well. We've got St. Joe's going and visiting West Haven at the Bennett Rink. But for now, thanks to Al Carbone, thanks to Mike Suppy, again, thanks to Eric Gendron. And for all of us here at the HAN Network, this is pretty much it. Merry Christmas. See you Monday at 11 at Coffee Break right here on the HAN Network. So long, everyone.